Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Diving into this Auburn team heading into week one. This has been a team we've talked a lot about over the summer. A lot of offensive talk, a lot of talk on the recruiting trail. Excited to dig into what we need to see from this team week one against UMass. Again, this is a game that Auburn should win by 30 plus points. But more importantly, what players are stepping up? What does this Hugh Freeze offense look like? And then I want to dive into the defense as well. Ron Roberts, I think, is one of the most under talked about coordinator hires across the country. And I get it. I mean, the big storyline is Hugh Freeze and the revolutionary change you're going to see on offense. But Ron Roberts, I think, is one of the brighter defensive minded coaches in the country, and kind of want to talk about what we'll see on the defensive side of the ball too. Going to get into some of the player predictions I have, some sleeper guys to keep an eye on from what I've been reading for fall camp. Again, before we get into it, just want to say thank you to the Auburn fans. It's been a blast talking this team, extremely high on Hugh Freeze and what he can do with this program. And I want to hear from you guys. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, but throw in some hot takes in the comment section. What players you think are going to step up? Love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. It's the best part about doing it. So again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Let me know in the comments who you think is stepping up. And let's start on the offensive side of the ball, because again, that is the big storyline. I'm going to take a deeper dive into the defense, but it does start on the offense. And if Auburn does have a year that kind of exceeds expectations, you're going to see a massive step from the offense, starting with the new quarterback one, Peyton Thorne, coming in from Michigan State. For Peyton Thorne, I think it's pretty simple. As a Big Ten guy, as a Michigan fan, I've seen a lot of Peyton Thorne. I want to see what Peyton Thorne does best and why he's the starting quarterback at Auburn. That is manage the game, get the ball out on time, accurately, and when it is time to hit those plays downfield, he certainly has the arm to do it. I want to see Peyton Thorne comfortable in this offense, going through his progressions, and just getting the ball in, showing a strong grasp of this offense. Hugh Freeze is going to take care of the rest, right? He's going to scheme guys open. This offense is going to look very, very nice. Now it comes to Peyton Thorne, just making the throws you got to make. Now, I think the more fun conversation has to do with what you're going to see from the pass catchers, but I'm going to start with the offensive line, and this has been a talking point I've been hammering home all offseason. This is the best offensive line we've seen Auburn have in years, in my opinion. Again, I keep going back to the stat. Auburn hasn't had a offensive lineman drafted since 2018, which is, I believe that's just kind of hard to believe. This Auburn offensive line, I think, truly can be elite, and my eyes are on the three transfers at the bookend positions of this offensive line, right? Avery Jones, one of the best centers in college football. You have Dylan Wade and Gunnar Britton. Can those guys be NFL caliber offensive linemen? They looked it in the spring game. That I think might be, outside of the quarterback and the new Hugh Freeze offense, I think a huge storyline is, can this Auburn offensive line really come together? Because they're going to want to give the ball to their talented running backs. Peyton Thorne is at his best when he has a strong run game to work off of. I think it comes down to this offensive line, and can this Auburn offensive line look much better than it does? And you might not get a full understanding because they probably should dominate UMass in the trenches, but looking at Avery Jones, Gunnar Britton, and Dylan Wade, do those guys look like dudes? And then at the wide receiver position, this is probably the most fun group to talk about because you got probably 8-9 names that could step up. And each of these names you've been hearing buzz about in fall practice. Who are the wide receivers? And this is probably where I want to hear from you guys the most, is how do you think this wide receiver room shakes out? From week to week, it seems like it's changing. Right now, there's a lot of buzz on Shane Hooks. I think a lot of Auburn fans saw that catch he had in practice the other day. Is Shane Hooks going to be the wide receiver one for this Auburn team? That's kind of my question. He has all the physical traits, too. He did it at Jackson State last year. Now, can you make that jump to the SEC level? Shane Hooks, Jair Shorter, those are the two guys I have my eyes on the most in terms of pushing the ball downfield, trying to find some of those explosive plays. Again, Auburn last year was 101st in explosive passing. I don't need to tell Auburn fans that because they probably saw that on the film last year, but that needs to get better. It's going to be schemed up better. And now I think they have the guys to do it as well with guys like Shane Hooks and Jair Shorter. How do those guys shape out? I'm interested to see Caleb Burton. And then another guy that has been getting a ton of buzz in camp, two guys, Nick Martiner, massive, massive frame, who I think will be really good in the red zone. And then the true sophomore, Jay Fair. There are a lot of names that are getting buzz around fall practice. You're going to see against UMass who are the wide receiver ones, who are going to be the guys for Auburn to be playmakers. That's probably what I'm most excited about. And then you look at the running back room. My biggest question mark there is it's not, is this running back position going to be good for Auburn? Like, it's going to be good. It's, is Jarquez Hunter going to be the guy immediately? Right? I mean, he was not with the team for a majority of fall camp. He's back with the team now. Is he ready to kind of take that full workload? And if he doesn't, I mean, you're hearing a lot of good things from Damari Alston. You're hearing a lot of good things from Ryan Batty. And then I'll have my eyes on Jeremiah Cobb as well, who, the true freshman, probably won't be the running back one to start the season. I think for sure he won't be. That being said, against UMass, you probably will get to see him get some reps. And very similar conversation what happened with Ole Miss last year, where Zach Evans and Ulysses Bentley kind of coming as the main running backs in that Ole Miss room. Ole Miss gets ahead on a couple teams. Quinshon Judkins starts to get some burn and then kind of just takes over the backfield. I'm not saying Jeremiah Cobb will do that. Jeremiah Cobb's one of the more intriguing true freshmen on this Auburn roster, though. So if you if you see Jeremiah Cobb, excuse me, if you see Jeremiah Cobb get some work against UMass, I'm really interested to see if he can maybe kind of carve himself out a role in this Auburn backfield. Then the last guy, the wild card. I don't even know if it's a wild card by now because the buzz you're hearing, Rivaldo Fairweather at that tight end position. I mean, just an absolute chess piece in terms of a matchup nightmare. Hugh Freeze, a lot smarter than me in terms of scheming guys up. Rivaldo Fairweather, I mean, he kind of gets lost in the conversation because you have so many new names, quarterback and wide receiver on the offensive line. He committed from FIU to Auburn out of the transfer portal relatively early. Don't forget about Rivaldo Fairweather, one of the more dynamic tight ends in the SEC conference and in the country. Those are some of the guys that I have in my notebook that I'll be watching against UMass. But I want to turn the attention to the defense, where we haven't talked a ton of this Auburn defense because it's not been the storyline of the offseason. I mean, the storyline for Auburn is, does this offense look much better under Hugh Freeze, one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the country? Let's get into Ron Roberts and what he's going to do with this Auburn defense, where it could be a really good group. I think they did a phenomenal job in the transfer portal. I think they have a lot of really talented guys coming in the back end. My eyeballs first are going to be on the secondary, where you have multiple guys that should be, or at least could be, an NFL candidate. DJ James, Jeremiah Pritchett, two guys that I think would have been in NFL rosters this year had they gone to the NFL draft. They decide to come back. They trust the process for Hugh Freeze. Do you have elite guys in that secondary? I think you do. Keontae Smith playing that star position is the next guy I want to look at. That is a massive position in this Ron Roberts defense in terms of, you got to be able to tackle in the box. You got to blitz off the edge. You got to be able to tackle in space. You got to be able to be lock up slot wide receivers in coverage. Keontae Scott, I think, has the capability to do that. That's probably the guy I have my eyes on the most in terms of that star position being really, really important. 2 years ago with Jalen Petrie at Baylor, I mean, this is a vital position in this Auburn defense, in this Ron Roberts defense. Can he be a difference maker? That's a massive question. And the most exciting part is Ron Roberts got fired from Baylor, or let go from Baylor, however you want to cut it, kind of as a scapegoat. What he did with Baylor, who was just completely under talent, in terms of the talent level at Baylor, it wasn't there, and he still put out really good defenses. Somebody had to leave. It ended up being Ron Roberts. Still think he's a really good defensive coordinator. And then you look to the front seven, and you have a lot of new names that are coming in. Where I want to start, and probably the biggest question mark I have for Auburn, it's not the secondary. This might be one of the best secondaries we see across the whole entire country. My eyes are on the pass rush. When you lose a guy like Derek Caldwell, those guys were dominant for Auburn up front, and you don't really have a name coming back that's oh yeah, he's going to be the elite pass rusher and take that step. My eyes are going to be on true freshman Keldrick Falk, who sounds like he's going to be playing a lot as a true freshman, has the body type to play a lot as a true freshman. Can he be that guy coming off the edge to be a game wrecker in this Ron Roberts defense? Excuse me. He's probably my name to watch. A couple other guys I'll throw out there. Justin Rogers. I think he is really, really talented. Remember him coming out of high school, wanted him to go to Michigan. I think he can be massive on the inside of that defense. And then how does that linebacker room shake out? You have Austin Keys. You have Larry Nixon the third. Both guys who've played a lot of football, have made a lot of tackles. And then Jalen McLeod, Elijah McAllister coming off the edge at that jack position, one from App State, one from Vanderbilt. It's a lot of new faces in the front seven. I think it's a talented group, but it's a lot of new faces. who are the guys that kind of step up in terms of rushing the passer on this Auburn defense? Because that's probably where you have the most question marks, is how do you stop the run and how do you get after the passer? I think stopping the run, you'll be fine with the guys on the inside. Now it is, how do we get those negative plays? Ron Roberts is going to scheme up a lot, and that's probably where I should have started, is what does Ron Roberts bring from a defensive coordinator mindset in terms of, hey, if we can't get pressure with our front four, how are we going to scheme guys up? He did a phenomenal job at Baylor, especially using that star position to kind of scheme up some negative plays. Does Ron Roberts get into his bag? You might not see the full bag of tricks against UMass. You probably save that for on the road at A&M week 4. That being said, you'll probably start seeing a little bit of the Ron Roberts wrinkle in terms of the aggressive nature of the defensive coordinator. Excited to see that. This defense is going to be really good. It's a lot of new names, but it's a lot of talent, and you have an elite secondary to lean on, which allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with your front seven. Like if you have guys like DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, even Jalen Simpson, like you feel good about the guys holding up in one-on-ones in the back end. Now that gives you a lot more liberty to scheme guys and start blitzing a little bit, sending guys in your front seven. That's what I'm most excited about for this Auburn defense. Again, UMass should take care of them, but what do we see from some of these guys heading into 2023 that's going to allow Auburn to win some games in the SEC and be competitive? That's what we're keeping our eyes out on for. Again, Auburn fans, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.